K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, our new time, which is a couple weeks in, so it doesn't feel so new, but welcome to another episode of the Bo and Joe Show. I'm here with Adrian Ferris and Bodine Sanders. Hello, gentlemen. How's your week?
Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well. Back in
Good
the
evening,
saddle
all.
again.
Yeah, great week. A lot to talk about.
Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night. I'm replaying. I got an echo. I sounded so good. I wanted to hear it again. All right, so great. So let's jump right in. What do you want to start with? I'll throw it to you, Bodine. What do you want to start with?
Well, first of all, doesn't it feel like it's been a long, like I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a month and it's only been a week because of how busy the last time we saw each other. And the last time we saw each other, my wonderful former classmate had the audacity to pick Rutgers over Notre Dame out of the box, and he starts off March Madness with a loss. So I'm very interested to hear how his bracket's doing because I didn't write it down, but I absolutely remember him saying Rutgers was going to beat Notre Dame. So let's hear it, brother. How you doing?
Well, it's good for. Are you talking about me?
Yeah. Well, guess what?
So first of all,
Joe didn't.
That was a play-in game. So that doesn't go towards.
Oh my goodness, he can't.
Picks. Your picks are first 64.
He can't
but
go there.
Either way, so one of the things that I did say though was that either one of them, whether it was Notre Dame or Rutgers, was going to beat Alabama. Didn't matter which one.
True.
They're both 12 seeds going in, and Alabama was just not playing well, and they were going to lose to either one of them.
Well, that started off.
But to answer your question, my picks are going very well, as a matter of fact.
Okay. All right. Well, you started off with an L, but you're working your way back, so that's good. Because let me tell you something. Was it 27 or 37 million people filled out brackets and downloaded those brackets for ESPN Bracket Challenge, and only 161 was fully correct after the first night. So that just goes to show you, it is not easy picking those teams and picking a bracket. And let me tell you something, I was brain dead. I got to give my pops credit. That dude was ready to watch every game. At one point, I was brain dead. I said, I can't watch any more basketball because I hadn't done it that much. I haven't watched that much basketball from beginning of the afternoon to the evening into the late night in a long time. But I'm telling you.
Your dad and I could hang out because I did watch every game.
Oh, no, I watched it. He kept, we kept going back and forth. He called me, I called him. My brother-in-law got into it. I'm telling you, it is crazy. Absolutely. So let's start off with NFL because we can talk about basketball the whole
I want to talk about my picks. I'm winning every game because I said I was going to wait till this week. So that's the strategy. You got to delay it a week.
There you go.
So I'm beating both of you. Every one of my teams is a winner so far.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed about last week.
Well,
but I'll let it pass.
As my mother and godmother taught me, and probably my grandmother might have said it as well, you hang with the smart people. So I'm glad I'm in Joe's corner because she's undefeated. So let's roll.
Exactly. All right. So throw it to the NFL. What do you got for us? What are we talking about? The trade? What's happening?
Oh, come on. Where do you want to start? I mean, what's the biggest story in the NFL, right? I mean, did we cover Tom Brady last week? Did we take care of that?
I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
We took care of that.
And you know what? I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but the biggest story in NFL right now is Tyreek Hill going to Miami today.
Yeah. Somebody had to go. They're paying their quarterback $500 million. they can't afford everybody, especially the top players, because they want to get paid, in the higher percentage of where they're ranked as a receiver, right? So you got all these receivers doing great, which means they're in the top 10 of receivers. They want to get paid like a top 10 receiver. So somebody got to go. And so, boom, there you go. That's the first bomb to drop. And hey, it's to be expected because you're paying your quarterback literally a lot of money. So how are you going to afford to keep the other top talent? Makes it tough. Same situation Aaron Rodgers is in. Did I not say, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but did I not say he's not going to win? Because he just lost his number one receiver. How in the world is he going to win a Super Bowl without his number one receiver? So making all that money is great, but if you want to get back to the Super Bowl and win, it's really now luck. If the team can acquire wide receivers, that's going to help him win. So
yeah, well, he's not going to win one. I mean, he hasn't been to one in the last decade anyway. So, that it's just not going to change. It's now tougher.
It's just tougher. And again, he's the best thrower of the football in the league. No question. He's a bad man, right? I'll pay Stephen A. Smith a penny because he came up with that. But you can't win. There's no I in team, right? He needs receivers. He needs running backs. He needs an offensive line. And if he's making $200 million, where you going to pay the other positions? It just makes it tough. That's why Tom Brady, your TB12 is the smartest guy on the field because he's taking less money and he's building a team and you know who's going to win the Super Bowl. So you might as well call it right now because Tampa is loading up.
Like I said last week. Yeah, like I said last week when it comes to Rodgers, Davante Adams, I mean, that was a Packer issue. And I think what happened was the Packers kind of rested on the relationship between Rodgers and Davante Adams, and they thought they could get away with franchise tagging him and not paying him what he was worth up front. And they lost on that guess because they obviously offered him a match of what the Raiders were giving him after the fact, but it was too late. So they had the money to do it. They just weren't willing to do it, and they got beat on it.
So before we go ahead, I want to say hi to Mr. Sanders. Hi, Mr. Sanders. Welcome to the show. And Tim is telling you, Bodine, there may not be an I in team, but there is a me in team. And he just wants to say you're welcome ahead of time. So thank you, gentlemen. Welcome to the show. So it's amazing to me how much they're willing to pay Aaron Rodgers when for someone who really hasn't been in the Super Bowl in so long. And I don't get it. I do understand his talent, but I don't understand if you're not, I agree with you, Bodine, if you're not going to give him the resources that he needs to win, why pay him so much? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. I'm
not the GM, but listen, sitting on the sidelines, I agree with you. It makes no sense. None.
And Andy is here. He's saying Derek Carr is buying him a car.
Derek Carr is probably buying him more than that, Andy, because that elevates Derek's Carr, his ability to compete in that division and in that conference, because who he's got to go against, right? Mahomes, now Russell Wilson, Herbert. Oh my goodness. And you know who's coming back from injury? The quarterback Jackson down in Baltimore. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch that AFC conference because they're going to be slinging it. Period. Buffalo. I mean, these guys are going to be slinging it. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, the AFC is definitely loaded.
They're loaded. And Tyreek's going to Miami, which is where? In the AFC. And who Miami? brought in as a backup quarterback who's going to compete for the starting role. Didn't they bring in another quarterback to compete with the Alabama quarterback, if I'm not
Tagovailoa?
mistaken? Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they did, but I think Tagovailoa was their guy.
Okay, well, guess what? He got Tyreek Hill. He got Cheetah. That elevates his ability to sling the ball downfield. The AFC is stacked. And it makes it easier for Tom Brady to go back to the Super Bowl. Right? It just makes it easy. The gift that keeps on giving. He faked everybody out, saying he was going to retire when he wasn't. Now he's loading up on wide receivers and defensive players. Oh, it's I'm telling you, it is crazy.
I'm going to have to get him in my fantasy football draft pretty quickly next year.
You better be the first one.
Well, the other big news in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes got married this week. Did you see that? Yep, he got married.
I didn't see that.
Yep, he got married. Yep, he got married. So he's now going to be even more focused, right? So that should elevate. There's a correlation between being single and being married and your ability to focus on the game. So let's see how that happens. Yeah.
We'll see. Tim is saying Terry Bridgewater.
Now,
Teddy
Dolphins got Bridgewater?
Teddy, yeah, that's right. That's right. Teddy Bridgewater went to Miami. So that's a competition right there. That's some competition right there.
Okay, I missed that one. Yeah, that is. I agree.
That's some competition. So you add Tyreek Hill and the other wide receiver who I, again, don't know his name, but the other receiver that Miami had, and Miami has a good defense. If they get better, I'm telling you, that AFC is going to be incredible to watch.
Well, they also got Teron Armstead went there as well, right? They said the tackle. I'm looking. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Who doesn't want to go to Miami? Woo-hoo!
I'd like to go to Miami.
I would too. Andy is saying Waddle.
Okay. So I'm just telling you, it's going to be incredible season. Who else? I mean, you've got the defensive player left the championship Rams who came from Denver, and he went to Buffalo. What's his name?
Was it Von Miller?
Von Miller,
right?
Yep.
And then you've got the former All-Pro defensive end, stand-up rushing defensive end. It came from Chicago that left and went to LA Chargers. So that's going to help LA.
Yeah, Khalil Mack,
right? Mm-hmm. So instead of them getting a lead because they have a great quarterback and then the defense giving up the lead, now it's going to put the opposite team in a position where they got to sling the ball. That makes it perfect for him to rush the quarterback and get sacks. That's how it works, right? It's not just about one aspect of your offense. It's a combination of your offense helping your defense and your defense helping your offense. So if you can get a 14-10 lead, you can just let your defensive ends pin their ears back and go. Right?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy in the AFC. Think about it. All four teams in the AFC West are in play. Buffalo, New England, now Miami in play. Pittsburgh picks up Trubisky. Pittsburgh, let's see what happens with Deshaun Watson and when and if he gets on the field. Cleveland, Cincinnati just went to the Super Bowl, all in play. Colts pick up Matt Ryan, in play. Tennessee was already in play. So, I mean, just think about all of those teams. Ravens in play.
Yeah,
that's a crazy conference.
I forgot about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, who just went to the Super Bowl. I didn't even mention them. Y'all didn't even help me out. Y'all supposed to help me out. You're my teammates.
I just did.
Justin is asking, where's Baker Mayfield going to go?
Nobody
cares. Anybody cares.
Nobody cares. Right? He's got to prove himself. And I think he, in the right situation, can be a viable quarterback. He's not going to be on any of those guys' level that we just talked about. But He's a reliable quarterback where he can compete. He's athletic enough, right, where he can run a little bit. He just got to stay healthy, but he's got to be on the right team. And this kind of thing that just happened to him is going to motivate him, and he's going to have to mature. Because I don't know if you heard the bad publicity the team put out about him, right? That's when you know your team is ready to get rid of you, when they start leaking bad information about you, calling him immature. Oh, come on.
Well, I think Baker has shown that he doesn't fully understand his situation, number one, and number two, that Cleveland was the only team in that draft that would have drafted him number one. Mm-hmm. He was not the best quarterback in that draft. He was not a number one player, but he's acting like he was the number one player in that draft. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, he was the number one player in that draft, but he really shouldn't have been the number one player in his draft.
It was a stunner.
And the problem is he's acting like he really should have been. He's not really understanding that, he was lucky to be the number one draft pick, and he should not have approached this thing the way he has, because nobody sees him as the number one pick. Nobody sees him as a franchise quarterback. So, and nobody's going to give up what he wants or what he feels Cleveland should get for picking him up. They're just not going to get it.
Right. Well, I got a update on one of my sports apps. He can't go to New Orleans because they re-signed their quarterback from Florida State, who got hurt during the season. Mm-hmm. The Colts traded for the Atlanta Falcons quarterback, Matt Ryan. Who did they pick up for Matt Ryan? Anybody?
No, just draft picks.
So here's what I would say: if the New Orleans didn't re-sign Jameis Winston, I would have said there's two spots that I could see the Cleveland quarterback going to and starting over and fitting in. But he's got one choice now: Atlanta. That's it.
Well, Atlanta picked up Marcus Mariota.
Oh, so he's done.
So that's done. Out. The only place is Seattle.
Oh, and that's not a good place for him. That's not a good place for him. He's not going to fit in that culture. He could fit in a culture like at New Orleans and Atlanta because it's, there's a vibe there, right? It's a little bit of, first of all, you're in Atlanta. It's called the Dirty South, right? And then New Orleans has got a flavor. But you go to Seattle, they don't want anybody cocky and arrogant there. They want somebody on Russell Wilson's personality. He won't fit in Seattle. Nope. So where's he going to go? Where's he going to go?
They need somebody. So we'll see what happens. But
he could go, but it ain't going to work out.
Yeah, what's being said is the only way somebody's going to take him is if Cleveland agrees to pick up some of that $18.9 million that he's owed for next year.
That means you need a team that's desperate for a quarterback, because you don't want to start the season as an NFL team without a quarterback.
Well, speaking of Seattle, did you see that Justin's reminding me that Colin Kaepernick worked it out with the NFL teams this week, and he's hoping to get on. He's hoping to get on to Seattle.
And if anybody can resurrect his career, is the head coach of Seattle.
So that would be interesting. That would be the
biggest story.
Yeah, that would be huge. So hopefully that happens, because that could take up a whole week. That could take up a whole week of one of our shows.
It could, because there's a little bit of diversity, equity, and inclusion in that, a little justice in there, right? Oh yeah, we could that could be a week-long program. Absolutely.
So that's interesting. All right. So I don't know what else. I do have a few human interest stories before we delve into March Madness. I don't want to talk about some of those things.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I don't. Did you see this story coming out of Texas? I mean, it wasn't out of Texas. Actually, it was at Disney World, and they had the drill team. They had a drill competition out there. The drill team had a performance, and it was very controversial. It was because they had depicted Native American stereotypes in the performance. The Cherokee Nation had asked the school numerous times to stop that performance. I mean, so much so that they have chants of scalp them in the performance. Their audition tape did not include that performance. So, Disney World is in a little bit of trouble, and the drill team obviously is in trouble. The high school has indicated that they're all about diversity, equity, inclusion, but clearly they're not. So I think that sometimes when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, a lot of times it's geared toward, we forget that it's much broader than just one ethnicity or race. And I think oftentimes the Native Americans get lost in the shuffle when in fact they're not necessarily. I mean, we have the Redskins, and I think that it's really coming up into the forefront, but it's another story where the Native Americans are depicted in a light that's not favorable to them.
So what type of show was this?
It was a drill team cheerleading competition. So
okay, so it's a cheer competition, multiple teams coming in, and so I mean, Disney wouldn't really know about it, especially if it wasn't on, I guess a submission that they, and I don't think they have to submit. I mean, you generally compete to make it to that level to get to Orlando when it comes to something like that, right?
Well, they did have to submit an audition tape, but of course that routine wasn't on the tape.
But that wasn't there, right? So
right, that wasn't there.
So, Disney World couldn't do anything about or know about that.
So it looks like it looks like they were hiding it.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
right?
It is. But they came out with a statement, and I think that I think it's clear that they probably didn't know about it. But of course, it's like being an accomplice to a crime. You're caught up and you're considered to be as guilty as the perpetrators, and that often happens. And of course, Disney's always in some kind of hot water. People are always trying to bring them down. So it's just another controversy. I'm not blaming Disney, of course. It's the cheer team's responsibility, and really the coaches at the school, the administration, whomever's. They should be overseeing that. And obviously, if it's been around for a long time, the administration knows and has seen that routine. It's not something new to them. So I think their claims of being diverse and concerned about equity, diversity, equity, inclusion ring pretty hollow.
Oh, it does ring hollow.
I thought that was interesting.
The adults in the room didn't read the room, meaning they don't care about the conversations that are happening in America. The kids should not be penalized. The adults should, because they're in charge, right? Sure. And as you said, it doesn't matter if you're driving a hoopty or if you're driving a Mercedes Benz. Whoever the getaway driver is just as guilty. So the adults, the kids didn't do it on their own. Let's just be honest. The adults knew what was going on and they approved it. So somebody's got to be held accountable. That's just the way it works.
Well, someone's the choreographer.
Somebody's
the creator.
Somebody needs to be held accountable because that's just ridiculous, right? Why would you want to be associated with someone or an organization knowing that they have, in order to enter that competition? I'm sure Disney talked about the routines and the type of routines and what to be cautious about and be concerned about, right? I mean, that's Disney. You probably, whoever the parents are, probably had to read a 5-page document, right? saying what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. Come on. Nobody's under a rock. Who's living under a rock these days?
And the Cherokee Nation has already spoken out about it. They've already asked the school before the competition not to perform that performance. So they've already made their Their feelings clear. So regardless of, I don't think Disney's really culpable here, but regardless, they submitted on audition tape and they intentionally omitted that routine.
Yeah.
So
Do you know where this team was from? Where was this team from? Do you know?
Let me look it up. I forgot, but
I mean, because it sounds like the Cherokee Nation knew about it before they even got there. So is it?
They knew about the routine. I don't know if they knew that they were going to. Yeah, they did. I don't think that they knew that they were going to. Yeah, I think the drill team was from Texas. I think Justin's right. The drill team was from Texas. I don't know exactly where in Texas.
Okay. So as Charles Barkley says, knuckleheads.
Yeah, Texas drill team.
Bunch of knuckleheads.
So it's really too bad. But then what about the other big story coming out of Florida? Another big story coming out of Florida with the Rob DeSantis proclaiming that Leah Thomas was not the rightful winner of the NCAA title. Obviously, he has a long history of anti-LGBTQ legislation. He's proclaimed that Emma Wyant, a Florida resident who competes for the University of Virginia, is the actual winner. And, that's certainly there's some controversy surrounding Leah Thomas's win, but, the NCAA ruled that she was the winner. I don't know how much weight Rob DeSantis carries. He carries zero weight with me. I don't know about, that's your home state, Bodine, but yeah, I think that, he's, I'm not a huge fan.
Keep that quiet. No, here's what I'd say. We've had this conversation off and on about the situation, and I think this reinforces or confirms at least my opinion, which is we need a group of people, adults. Joe, you even said let's include student athletes, right? Into a conference, to a group, an organization that can make some decisions regarding this issue, because this issue is new and it's not going anywhere. And just off the top of my head, I think early on I said this and I didn't have any idea of a list of people we can, who we could invite to be a part of this conference and this organization that could make some decisions. But come on, just off the top of my head, there's Condoleezza Rice, who used to be Secretary of State. There's Billie Jean King. There's Tony Dungy. There's Michael Phelps. I mean, Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama. Come on. What's his name? Bill Gates' ex-wife, Melinda Gates. I mean, there's a boatload of people out there who are thoughtful people who have nothing to fear based on their decision because they've already established of who they are, right? Right? You don't want to be a part of this group where you're going to feel if you make a decision that half the country dislikes, it's going to hurt your brand or who you are. The type of people I just named have nothing to worry about regarding their brand. So they could literally make a thoughtful decision regarding this issue. Obviously, scientists and so forth and so on. But there's got to be a big group of people from different fields, different industries that get involved in this so we can hurry up and come to a resolution or at least some type of protocol that makes sense. Because this dude, the governor of the state I was born in, has just thrown gasoline, right? And what we lose in the fire, we find in the ashes. He's just making it worse.
Yeah, well, he's throwing gasoline on something that's really gaining momentum. He's just a voice that has a larger reach. Let's put it that way. Because there are a lot of people that are not happy about this, men, women alike. Another interesting voice that spoke out, I don't know if you saw this, but Caitlyn / Bruce Jenner came out a couple hours ago stating that it's not fair as well. and obviously there's interesting context there, being that he is a previous male Olympic decathlon champion, now, you
A,
know,
a transgender.
a transgender.
Female.
So that, I think that lends more weight because he has a much better understanding as the male athlete, and what that means, and understanding, I guess, probably in the differences in the male body versus female body, and the transitions, and what may be lost in that transition, how much testosterone is lost in that transition, and whether it's truly a disadvantage. You know what I mean? To women. So I thought that was an interesting voice that spoke out earlier today as well.
And some might say he's too close to it to be involved in the group that I'm just describing. I'd like to see, and some might say no, he needs to be involved in that group because of what you just said.
Exactly.
I forgot.
I would be on that side of it.
How about Carl Lewis? Right? There are so many ex-athletes who and others that could be involved in this decision-making process that need to be involved. That's all I'm saying. Because if we don't, people like DeSantis are going to continue to throw gasoline on it and make it a political issue when it should not be a political issue. It should be much deeper and inclusive decision involving lots of people. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think here's an interesting perspective that, that makes me wonder what the governing bodies of college football, whose regulations supersede whom. So for instance, in Florida, DeSantis has passed the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which bans anyone born as a male from competing in women's sports in Florida. I mean, so what happens if one of the competitions is there? I mean, and other governors across the state start to make that same determination. And I believe there are 25 states, I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's around 25 states have made similar declarations or regulations or legislation there. So what happens then? I mean, are these college athletes, who's going to be the governing body? Is it going to be the NCAA? Is it going to be state law? I think that's an interesting perspective. Because look at how COVID regulations superseded, the professional athletics and their rules and regulations. So I don't know.
And we don't know whether or not these decisions are being litigated in court anyway, right? Yeah. I mean, I haven't checked. So I'm pretty sure there's some litigation in the process that's going to work its way up from the state level to the federal level, which means the decisions that have been made may be halted until ultimate decisions are made, right? And so it's just putting kids, ultimately the student athletes, in a bad position, because now kids are going to not only have to think about where they're going to go to school, how they're going to compete, who they're going to compete with, whether or not they're going to participate, not participate. And that could have an effect on the universities based on where these kids want to go, right? If that happens, which could have a positive or negative, meaning wins or losses for these schools in the competition when they compete against other schools. Some schools may say, no, we're not flying into Florida to compete against the University of Florida because your University of Florida has a great swim team, right? They may not want to do it. It's about to get crazy. So that's why a decision needs to be made on how we're going to reach a decision.
Agreed.
Not everybody's going to be happy with it, but we got to do something before it gets crazy out there.
Agreed. All right, so let's jump to tennis. Did you see the news that Ash Barty, the number one tennis player and the female tennis player is retiring at age 25? That sounds perfect to me. So when I turn 25, I'm going to retire as well.
Yeah, well, this isn't the first time she's done this. She's 25 years old. She's been ranked number one for 114 consecutive weeks. So over 2 years, she's been, excuse me, the world number one. She's got 3 major titles. And my understanding is that she walked away a while back for 2 years and actually went and played professional cricket. And then after that, she decided she would come back and pick the racket back up, and she's number one in the world. So
I find it very interesting that she said physically she has nothing left to give. So that was surprising to me. We know that she's, all reports say that in her inner circle, she's been talking about it for a long time. Justin saying she may actually go back to cricket again. So that would be interesting.
Well, I just think it's one of those things that we've kind of talked about in other aspects before, and that is the amount of time that these athletes spend, mastering their craft, so to speak. It is a day after day, year after year, really no time off deal for these athletes to get where they are. So to me, I'm not totally surprised, because you work at it, and think about tennis though. Tennis players can go to the professional ranks young. It happens, and I don't know when.
I think she was
exactly
15.
So there you go. She was a professional at 15. So that means, think about all the work leading up to becoming a professional at 15. And then all of the work from 15 until now to get where she is, to be the world number one for 2 consecutive years, to be at the top of her game, and to have won over $23 million. So I think at a certain point, it can be pretty easy for somebody to get to that place, having done all the things that they've done, having made the money that they've made, and say, you know what, I'm not interested in putting this amount of time into this anymore. You know what I mean? Because in order to sustain it, you have to continue to work in the same manner that you did in order to get there. And sometimes even more, because in order to sustain it, and you're getting older, body doesn't do the same things. It's not as easy. It becomes more work than it may have been when they were younger. So I can understand.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed because I don't have my tennis racket around to use as a display, as an item to display. But I got to tell you, listen, she's 25 years old. How many tennis athletes that are women have at least 3 kids? I can't think of any. She probably wants to have a family. And what a great time. She's made enough money, right? She's done well. She probably took a look at what she would have to do in order to continue to win and win majors and so forth and so on. Maybe she just wants to have a family, and she said, listen, I accomplished some of her goals and her dreams. Now it's time to do something different. So we'll see. More power to her.
Yeah, more power to her for sure. And then, all right, so that's all I have. We should jump into basketball. So there have been some major upsets. I mean, you touched on it in the beginning.
What is that? Your after the fact bracket? Is that what that is?
It's my keep up with the Joneses bracket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I this is my first time in a long time, so I'm making sure I document information. So I'm preparing for next year, right? If we're going to be professionals, we have to prepare for next year. So I'm thinking more than 5 minutes in front of my face, right? So, but you're right, Joe. There was a lot of upsets. I think we're already covered. Rutgers losing the first play-in game. So let's move on to North Carolina beating up on Baylor.
Justin's bringing, yeah, that's a good one. But Justin's bringing up St.
Well,
Peter's too. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
St. Peter's is obviously the big one, beating
Yeah, that's a big
Kentucky
one.
and then going and beat Murray State
from your home state, right, buddy?
from Jersey
City.
City. Yeah, and you know, some interesting storylines on that. You know, Shaheen Holloway, their head coach,
He played for Kentucky.
He played for Seton Hall.
Did he?
And ironically, the last New Jersey team to reach the Sweet 16 was back in 2000 when Shaheen Holloway was their point guard. So he played on the last team from New Jersey to make the Sweet 16. Now he's the head coach for the first team since 2000 to make the Sweet 16. So go ahead.
But I was told that he played for the head coach of Kentucky. Was it a summer league or who's the head coach of Kentucky? Is it
John Calipari?
John Calipari.
I didn't hear that.
No,
no, he played for Seton Hall.
Okay.
Yeah. So that storyline is Seton Hall's the last Jersey team to make the Sweet 16. Holloway was their point guard, and St. Peter's.
Well, he was a good point guard.
Yeah,
I remember the name.
Player. Yeah,
I remember the name. But he won't be there next year.
Yeah, I mean he's probably
about to get paid
way to a much bigger payday, and
he's going to get paid.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Bigger university,
right?
Yeah,
he's young. He's young. He can relate to the young players, and somebody's going to throw some money his way because he's at how many students at St. Peter's? 3,000-4,000. I mean, so literally a small.
Yeah, it's a very small school.
They're not paying him the money some of the other coaches are making. He's about to get paid.
And what's great about this is, you know, St. Peter's, small school, Jersey City, don't have a lot of money. Well, that's changed. That this is the great thing about March Madness, about making this type of tournament for these universities, and a lot of people kind of forget this. You move on, you make it to the Sweet 16 and beyond, that's money to the university.
Absolutely.
And so, you know what I mean? So, and that's something that kind of gets missed in this whole thing is not only are they in the Sweet 16, but this is really going to help the university financially.
Well, it's going to help their university the same way it helped Villanova during our freshman year when we won the first championship in 84-85. That next fall, it was unbelievable how many students was walking around that campus. What do you call it? Enrollment applications to
increase,
get accepted. All of it increased. Absolutely. Yeah. And Villanova was already increasing because when we walked on the campus, I distinctly remember living in an office that they turned into a temporary dorm because they didn't have enough room for the freshmen that came in that year. So absolutely it helps. Not just the money that they share from continuing to win every weekend, but the enrollment, the people finding out about the school. It's all positive. And they are a true Cinderella. You cannot say this team is not a Cinderella team. They are definitely a Cinderella team.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the Sweet 16 and we talk about 4 double-digit seeds being in the Sweet 16, well, St. Peter's is the only one that's not from a power conference.
Correct.
You know, Michigan's 11, Iowa State's an 11, and Miami is a 10. All of them are for power conferences: the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC. So, you know.
And North Carolina is not playing like they're an 8 seed. They're playing like they're a number 3 seed, right?
Well, yeah, and so like I talked about last week, there is no dominant team in this tournament. Okay, and there are a lot of teams that could win this national championship. And you know, you mentioned Baylor earlier, and if you remember, I mentioned last week, Baylor was my first number 1 to go out. Reason being is because they had a lot of injuries. You know, that is not the Baylor team that started the season. And quite honestly, I was surprised they still got the one seed as early as they got beat in the Big 12 tournament. So so that wasn't a surprise, but obviously St. Peter's beating Kentucky. And then you had some really, really great games against some of the one seeds. Gonzaga, the Gonzaga Memphis game.
Oh, that was
Great
awesome.
game.
How about the Arizona game?
Arizona TCU.
Woo!
And I actually had to go to sleep on that because I had to go to work and woke up the next day and was like, okay, it went to OT. Another great game. So the one seeds have been pressed. Creighton gave Kansas everything that they wanted on this past weekend as well. So, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens this weekend. I think, we see some things as upsets and they're not necessarily as much of an upset as we want to make them at this point, other than St. Peter's.
True. Did you see the other big story, speaking about getting paid? When the ball got stuck in the Indiana game and the cheerleader, did you see that? The cheerleader had to dislodge the ball. She has now she's been given a name, image, likeness contract. And so
how much?
I didn't know that.
How much?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see how much. Let me see.
What company?
Yeah, I didn't see that. That's cool.
A sports apparel company, maybe.
Let's see.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
See, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So she's with a sports apparel company, Breaking Tea, I guess is the name of the company. So yeah, so they have shirts made already. so
all of that because they couldn't find the long-handled sweeper to poke it out. See that?
Yeah. So that was, I thought that was a fun story coming out of the tournament.
Oh, it was a great story. I thought it was awesome. You had all these guys trying to figure out how to get the ball down, and here comes the cheerleader. Boom! Guy throws her up, doing their normal routine. Boom. And the crowd went crazy. And that's the kind of stuff that makes March Madness fun, right?
Of course, yeah, that is fun. But the supporting player who lifted her up, I don't think he got a name, image, likeness deal.
He'll be all right.
Hey, don't sleep. Somebody's coming because somebody is going to ask that same question that you asked, and somebody else is going to sweep in and give him a deal, regardless if it's free pizza or what. It's all about the publicity, right? Yeah. So somebody's going to reach him. I mean, this name, image, and likeness thing is only it's scratching the surface. What is it? The quarterback who left either Oklahoma that went to USC, right, to follow his coach, signed a $7 million NIL deal. Come on.
Williams, his last name Williams. He's the guy that took Spencer Rattler's job.
And he's from like DC or the Baltimore area. Dude, he's the first week he's on the campus, he signs a $7 million deal.
Wow.
Pays to be in the power conference. Right? Pays to be in LA. Right? So it's
these young, that's crazy.
So let's get back to the tournament. What are your highlights from this past weekend? Highlights, lowlights. What things did you see that stuck out to you, Bo?
Oh, of course, Villanova won. Both the men's and the women's won. And then our women, unfortunately, ran into Michigan. We run into Michigan on tomorrow.
Well, we're going to pay them back.
See what happens. But no, it was I thoroughly enjoyed, even though I was brain dead by 11:30. I enjoyed all of the games that I watched. I mean, you just can't beat watching, flipping from 4 networks, catching games. I mean, it's just one after the other. So
did you see my picture? I don't flip. Did you see Joe? You saw my picture, right?
I saw your picture. Yeah,
how you do March? I do it like I'm at a sports bar.
I didn't see the picture. I don't know where you posted it at, but did you post it on? What did you post it
on Facebook?
Oh, okay, I missed it. Gotcha. I'll check it out. I'll check it
Only
out.
way to do it.
I love that. So
Yeah, we're too old to go to a sports bar.
yeah, right. So we just hook up all the TVs. We hook up all our
That's it.
TVs.
That's it.
Smart thinking.
So what about you, Joe? How many
So
did you watch anything or?
I watched a little bit of game. This has been a hectic week for me because I had a lot of stuff going on with my sons. I watched some of the games, not all in entirety. You know, I love all the human interest stories. I love the two brothers who had the opening round. They were competing against each other. I like that. Things like that. So I haven't watched any full complete games. I watched a lot of highlights. I watched a little here and there. I have. I've given some thought. I love all the upsets. I always like the underdog. So I watch the clips and highlights of all of those. So I just think it's a fun tournament. I love watching kids play. I think it's a different, and I don't like to call them kids because they are adults, but it's a different level of play. It just reminds me how passionate students are. They just will do anything. Even the fans are so into it when it's a college game. I mean, in a much more... It seems to be in a much more wholesome way than, like you'll see the professional sports games and they're, beating each other up in the stands. At the college games, it's a lot more fun, a lot more camaraderie, I think. And so I'm not going to weigh in too much of the details of the games because I haven't watched any full games yet.
Well, don't sleep on the women's game because I watched some of the women's because Villanova
Quite
women.
a few upsets there too.
And let me just tell you, I see the same thing in the women's play that I do in the men's play. Regarding the men, there are some men teams that don't belong on the court with some teams, right? You could see it in the play. In the women's game, it's the same thing. There are elite women teams, and then there's subpar women teams, the same equally on both sides. The women teams that are good, you can clearly see it from the time they bring the ball up down court, the way they run their plays, the way they shoot, the way they hustle to the ball, the way they rebound. Shoot, you've got a woman on a young lady on one of the teams that's dunking the ball in the game. So there's lots of games between both the women and the men's teams. And then I found out not only is the NIT taking place, there's another tournament happening from my understanding, just in Florida. The Florida teams that didn't get invited to the March Madness or the NIT are having their own state competition. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So
Nobody's watching.
Nope, nobody's watching because it's not on TV, but it's still happening. Right? There are people in the stands, right? So there's just so much happening, man. Oh,
well, yeah, I agree with you. The gap is still wider on the women's side as far as your upper echelon teams and the other teams, but that gap is narrowing. There were quite a few. Obviously, the Villanova win in the first round was an upset.
Absolutely.
There were quite a few other big upsets on the women's side, which was pretty cool to see as well. The thing I kind of look at on the men's side through this whole thing, obviously you have your upsets and obviously your interests in different teams. The thing I always look at, and I talked about it last week really quickly, are what the conferences do. Last week we mentioned the Big Ten having nine teams in the tournament, and they're a disappointment. They only have 2 in the Sweet 16, and 2 from 9 after the first week. That's not a bad number, but I think the reason was a disappointment was because of the number of high seeds that they had. Some conferences get Big East is a good example. They had 6 teams in, but only 3 of them were 4 seeds or better. UConn was a 5. They got knocked off in the first round by a 12, which was an upset that shouldn't have happened. But the Big East still has 2 in. On the other side, the demise of the ACC was definitely overstated. everybody was talking about how bad the ACC was this year. And the ACC, they only got 5 in, and they have 3 in the Sweet 16. So only 2 of them lost. Miami coming out as a 10 seed, but then Duke and North Carolina are both in the Sweet 16. And quite honestly, I have in my brackets Texas Tech beating Duke, but after this past weekend and watching Duke play, that's not the same team that I saw play at the end of the season. They seem to be playing well, and I probably will live to regret picking Texas Tech to beat them on Friday night, but we'll see. So the demise of the ACC is overrated.
Who's the third team from the ACC besides Duke?
Miami.
Miami. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, Miami.
Yep.
And then with that, you see the strength of the Big 12. Big 12 has 3 in. Kansas, which was expected. Texas Tech expected. But Iowa State, an 11 seed, found their way in. So, and then the SEC was a total disappointment. SEC, Tennessee expected to be there. They lost to Michigan. Alabama early lost, which like I said, I expected, but still an early loss for Alabama. Auburn, a 2 seed, gets knocked out.
They still have Arkansas in there, though, right? Isn't
Arkansas is in there, and they're dangerous. Yeah,
they're
Arkansas.
very dangerous.
Yeah, they're gonna. That's gonna be a tough game for Gonzaga, no doubt. So yeah, I always find it interesting to see what the actual conferences do after they get their numbers in and see what happens after that first weekend.
Well, you could tell there was a lot of upsets because out of the 16 teams left, 1, 3, 4, 5 of those 16 are 8 seeds and higher, and the rest are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 seeds. So you can just tell just from those 5 that are 8 to fit ranked seeded 8 to 15. Those teams are upsets. They upset people to get to where they are. All right.
True.
Yep.
So,
no doubt.
Yep. There's there's 115, 2 11s, 110, and 1 8.
Yeah, and like I said, though, Michigan and 11. A lot of people thought that they should have been a play-in. Well, they were a play-in team, but they should have been one of the last 4 in. So that a lot of people think they got a favorable seed at 11.
They did with all that talent on that team. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree with you, Bo. I mean, they played in the
right
Big Ten,
time. Right?
Yeah, they played in the Big Ten. Tough schedule.
We're gonna have to play really well to beat them because they're taller than us.
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna have to play. We're gonna have to shoot the threes and pull them out of the paint so we can have a chance to get rebounds. Because they have 1 or 2 All-Americans on that team, or what do you call them? One and doneers?
They don't have any All-Americans. They've got a couple freshmen that are actually very good. They've got a big guy in the middle. He's a sophomore. So the thing is, they're a young team. But they're a good team.
They can play.
There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So what's your big matchup that you're going to focus on come tomorrow or Friday, Bo?
I mean, obviously Nova tomorrow.
Well, other than that one.
I'm interested in UCLA, North Carolina, because Nova played UCLA early in the season. And then obviously St. Pete doesn't have a shot, but I hope they beat Purdue?
Yeah, St. Pete's run is over. Purdue is too good a team, big team, a lot of length. They have an All-American in Brandon Ivy on that team, who's really a great player. I love watching him play. St. Pete's run is over. There's no doubt
Arizona,
about that.
I didn't watch Arizona during the season, but they have a kid on their team that jumps out of the building and is apparently in the top 5 of, top 5 of the lottery pick. This kid is good. Did you see that kid play? He's pretty good. I never saw him play before. He's outstanding. So I'm gonna check that game out against Houston. So I'm gonna try to watch all of them. Go ahead, Joe.
I like Duke, Texas Tech. I think that's going to be a tight game.
That is a great matchup game. Texas Tech plays great defense. Duke has been playing a lot better, but I think Texas Tech is going to make it tough on them to score. So, that's a game I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on myself.
Well,
I'm interested in seeing what Providence does with Kansas. I think that could be. I'm really interested in watching and seeing what that game ends up being.
Well, I'm gonna watch all the games, but I'm gonna pay attention. I forgot about that game because I want to see how the Big East lives up. I mean, to me, it started out a disappointment. We were basically 1-3. And then when Providence and Nova won, we're now 3-3 in terms of wins. So, let's see how the Big East continues to do. So I'm gonna be interested in watching that game, but I'm gonna watch them all.
All right.
So
absolutely. So do you have your final 4 from this Sweet 16?
No, I don't. I told you I don't fill out brackets.
You said last week you would do that.
I don't fill out brackets. I don't fill out brackets. I watch the games.
Next year, you're going to have to fill out a bracket.
Collect the information so I know how to judge teams based on when they start next year and how they finish this year.
All right. So next year we'll get a bracket out of you.
First of all, the goal is we need to talk. Are we going to have a special March Madness show on Sunday before the big game Monday?
I don't know. Are you going to fill?
Is that something we want to discuss? Because we need to make a decision.
And what is that? April 3rd?
April 3rd, because the championship game, the final game, is that Monday night.
All right. Well, we'll announce it next week. What's next Wednesday?
The 27th or something.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. I think that could work. We could do a
next Wednesday is the 30th.
Okay.
All right, so we really would have to decide so we can start to promote it. So let's talk about it. And so we'll have a teaser. We'll have our own. We'll think about it.
I just teased it for our audience.
Okay. And we'll put it in our Facebook group and figure it out. Kelvin is saying, giving you a little shout out, Adrian.
I don't know, Zane. I don't know, man. I'm on an island here.
Well, I have a top 4.
Go ahead.
So do you have 4 from this week from the Sweet 16?
I do.
Good. Who you got?
I like Miami. I'm hoping Miami comes out on top. I like UCLA. I like Duke, and I like Purdue.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Thanks for not picking against Nova. I appreciate it.
Well, I wouldn't do that to you. So those are the 4 that I picked.
Well, all of my final 4 picks from last week are still in.
All right.
And I have the bracket with Iowa State, Miami. Obviously, that's a dead bracket. I didn't have either of those teams. I have Kansas moving on. I have Purdue moving on. I have UCLA moving on. I have Texas Tech moving on, Gonzaga moving on, Arizona and Villanova. So really, for me, I only have one bracket, which is the Iowa State Miami game, that I don't have a winner moving on. So there's your answer to my
All
My
right, so
bracket,
you're
my
in good
bracket's still
standing.
very much alive.
So who do you have going to the Final Four in the Midwest region? Kansas or Providence?
I have Kansas.
So if Providence win, that total
That kill,
region
yeah.
is
So if
busted.
Providence win, that kills that region for me.
Yep. Okay.
Then I have Purdue and UCLA in the Final Four, and I
Okay.
have Gonzaga, Texas Tech in the Final Four, and then I have
Arizona Nova.
well, no, I'm sorry. No, I have not in the Final Four, in the Elite Eight. I'm sorry. Gonzaga, Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. I
Right.
have UCLA, Purdue in the Elite Eight. I have Kansas in the Elite Eight, and I have Villanova, Arizona in the Elite Eight. Then I
Right.
have in my Final Four, I have Villanova, Gonzaga, UCLA, and Kansas. With Kansas winning, Gonzaga winning, and then I have two brackets. I have Gonzaga in one bracket. I have Kansas in another one.
All right. So we'll have to see. We're down to the wire. We're in our old time slot right now. All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we have a lot to look forward to next week. Justin saying North Carolina will beat UCLA, and we'll see what happens there, and we'll
be a good game.
And we'll talk about an NCAA Final Four special.
You know what to do with that thing?
Oh man, you know I used to school you in the old Jake Niven field house. Stop it. You don't remember, huh? I used to light you
Did
up.
you do the alley cat? Did you play alley cat?
No, I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Oh, okay. It was the outdoor tournament that they had. You could have one you could have one varsity athlete on each team.
I never played that. You're talking about when that down there
on the courts.
Yeah. No, I never did that. No, I never did that.
Okay, so it would be a real special if we had Bodine Sanders and Adrian Ferris going one-on-one in location.
two old men that can't move anymore.
No. Now, if you said we could bring our golf clubs out, that's a different story. I'm walking. But playing basketball, sorry, I'm not trying to have a heart attack. Sorry, there's not enough Bear aspirin.
We are on the same page.
Basketball court.
We're on the same page.
Not enough Bear aspirin, baby. Low dose or high dose. I'm not doing it.
So Kelvin's asking, is that true, Bo? But I'm not sure true if it's what true.
He's saying, is it true that he schooled me? Because Kelvin knows how I can play. So he's checking him is what he's doing. Right, Zane? You're being checked right now.
First of all, both of us are old enough. We don't have enough recall to remember who did what. So I'm sticking to my story and let him stick to his.
All right.
Gold Wildcats, baby.
All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Of course, we have Justin here, Mr. Sanders, Kelvin was here, Andy was here, Tim Fielder was here. Who else? I think.
What's up, Sarge?
We had a lot of people here tonight. We appreciate it, and of course,
Sarge, my brother, my brother, Sarge.
And no show is complete or episode without our main man behind the scenes, Chris P. Bacon. I hope he's still there. I know he's having some technical difficulties. I see the top of his head, so I believe he's there. So thanks,
and
Chris.
Crispy Bacon, you better wear your Villanova hat. I got you.
Right. All right. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week, and we'll keep you posted throughout the week on our special. So play us out, Chris.
Deuces, V's up.